To beat the living crap out of them, don't let them push you around. You gotta swoop down like an eagle, grab them with your claws, and sink your fangs into them. Here's your look at the Diamond Select Cobra Kai Previews exclusive Eagle Fang Johnny Lawrence. Decades after the tournament that changed their lives, the rivalry between Johnny and Daniel reignites in the sequel to the Karate Kid films. This deluxe action figure of Eagle Fang Johnny Lawrence is based on his appearance in the Netflix series Cobra Kai. It features 16 points of articulation, multiple interchangeable hands, and a support stand, sculpted by Chris Dahlberg and Rocco Tartamella. Okay, let me just say first of all, I would join this dojo Eagle Fang from just the name alone. Eagle Fang. Not to mention it has one of the coolest logos around. It's an eagle with fangs in its beak. It's an eagle with fangs in its beak. Before we get things underway, though, I'd like to thank the folks over at Diamond Select, and I send that thank you to them with no mercy. Because of them, we are going to be looking at, in this video, the previews exclusive Eagle Fang Johnny Lawrence. Now marks the third Johnny Lawrence that we've looked at over the last several videos. Hopefully you guys have been checking those out. Going to bring in my little disc of measurement here. I've yet to come up with a name for it. We're going to measure it first. Clickety-click. Let's just make sure we don't knock over Johnny in the process. Clickety-click right at the very top of Johnny's head. The figure stands, in this case, about 6.5 inches in height, or the figure's roughly about 16 centimeters tall. Not only am I thinking about an eagle with fangs in its mouth, but I have to also be wondering how many times by now have I already said the name Johnny Lawrence? Is somebody taking a tally of that? We have certainly looked at two figures before. Now again, this marks the third time looking at Johnny. Let's bring those other two figures in right now. Here's what Johnny Lawrence, the previews exclusive, looks like next to the San Diego or SDCC 2022 Johnny Lawrence. One thing you may notice right away between the two figures is the fact that the previews exclusive Johnny seems notably shorter. In fact, just to put the figures side to side, or back to back in this case, look at the difference between the two sizes. Now, I didn't notice that right away when I took the figure out of the packaging, but in preparation of the review and just looking at them, I noticed, though, that the San Diego Comic-Con version of Johnny was quite a lot taller. I don't know why that was the case. Could be also a way that they've maybe just decided to use a different body, in this case for Johnny Lawrence, the previews exclusive. But anyways, we can also bring in the regular release Johnny. Well, I actually ended up doing things slightly out of order. And also, just in case you're curious, just to take the previews version of him and put him next to the comic version of Johnny, they seem more a little in line. In fact, really, now that I see this, if you look at the San Diego Comic-Con version of Johnny Lawrence, I've actually got them kind of from highest to lowest. Strange trickery. Strange trickery. Anyways, though, these are the three figures we've looked at already, and you may ask yourself, how do you know that the one on the far right is actually the one from the comic version, Johnny? And simply just because he's still rocking that flip-out phone. Yeah, Johnny, representing those that still want to keep and hold on to their old, outdated phones. I still wish I had my sliding-out keyboard phone. I, yes, talked about more of that when we had a look at the comic version of Johnny Lawrence, if you did want to see that whole full dialogue. It's rather intriguing. We can also bring in some other figures, too. Here's what it looks like next to, always hands in his belt. I'm going to want to make sure he doesn't fall over. Here's what it looks like next to John Kreese. Now, John Kreese is the same size as SDCC 2022 Johnny Lawrence. But now looking at it, it could be the case that they've actually used the same body from the Johnny Lawrence, the San Diego Comic-Con, to what they did with John Kreese. Because, yeah, the previews exclusive Johnny still seems quite a bit shorter. And, of course, we also have to bring in a few other characters here as well. There's the Daniel Larusso. Now, that's Daniel Larusso from the San Diego Comic-Con, and just freeing up a little, hopefully, space on the other side, not knocking anybody over. That's what the Daniel Larusso book ending to the other side. That was the Daniel that came included with the Miyagi training device, and that was the comic book release version of the figure. So right now, if we're taking a tally of just the figures alone, we got 3 Johnnies, 2 Daniels, and 1 lone John Kreese. Shifting our Eagle Fang focus now over to the accessories that come included with Johnny. First of all, speaking of which, the figure comes included with an Eagle Fang Karate display stand. I could not help but notice that, taking it even out of the packaging, that there were very obvious scratches all across the surface of it. I'm not sure what could have caused this, whether it would have just came off the assembly line, but you can even see, like, just having the light hitting it. Yeah, see all these little scratches just above the peg. Not sure, again, how that got there. I also noticed, too, with the eagle fang that's slightly lower and not dead center. I wonder if some of the reasons why they did that was so it could actually be underneath the pegs in the hole. The hole, by the way, will be for the adjustable neck that plugs just into the top of that. We have certainly seen these already by now. You take the figure and you spin it around. Located here on the back, there is a peg that can go onto the back of that adjustable neck. Now, the neck does adjust in a couple of places. There's a knuckle joint right there, a joint right there, a joint right there, and a joint right there. And you can bend any one of those spots down. You can also, with the benefit of these, actually remove them. So if you do find the length is a little too long, simply cut it in half, not literally cutting it in half. And then you've got your self-adjustable peg. Now, the pegs on these are always generally either too tight or too loose. They're never in between. So like right now, I've got it super tight. I'm going to have to loosen that up a little bit with a screwdriver. But the idea, though, is that you just attach it onto the back, and I don't know. I guess if you did want to have him more in a leaping pose, but generally for these figures so far, I've just relied on the display stand more for decorative, and I guess to some extent keeping them balanced. I've yet to really use them for an actual leaping in the air. I still wish, though, that the logo for Eagle Fang, as good as that logo is, could not have been a little bit higher, more dead center. It would have probably involved them, having to put the peg in the middle of the logo, but at least while looking at it, it doesn't look like it's off-kiltered. It should be a little bit, like, right around there. Just to show you the difference, by the way, we're going to bring in the other display stand. This came included with I think it was just the comic version. It could have also been John Kreese, but both are the same type of display stand. Once again, like Cobra Kai, now realizing, is actually a little bit lower too. It's again as if they were trying to match it underneath, so it lines underneath the actual pegs, but I still would have brought them up and made them a little bit more centered. Anyways, the figure also comes included with a couple of other weapons. Now, this is one thing that the Johnny Lawrence, the SDCC, didn't come included with, but he, to his credit, did come included with a trading card and a slightly smaller display stand. First of all, the figure comes included with a couple of Tonfas. Tonfas are basically like nightstick weapons. They're molded here all in black plastic, and if they do look somewhat familiar to you, this is the one that came included with John Kreese. They are exactly the same ones. You can take the Tonfas and you can actually fit them into Johnny's hands. Now, I think generally Tonfas, especially the ones that the T variety like these ones, actually I think normally go the opposite way around. You have to kind of pry the fingers away from the palm. The plastic I didn't really mention too much in the earlier reviews, but it's a very hard plastic. So you can take the Tonfa and sort of just line it up parallel to his arm. Some people have also had it displayed the opposite way, but I think most of the time Tonfas are usually parallel to the arms, like that. The other thing the figure comes also included as well with, just put the figure back down here for a second, is a pair of sai. No, not size. A pair of sai is still sai. You don't actually put an S on the end of it. It's all molded here in, again, black plastic, so no additional paint or anything like that. And again, no trickery. I don't want you to think that I'm just reaching off and grabbing the second of the two here. While I'm holding these, I'm going to bring in the other one. This was also, again, something that came included with John Kreese. So you get a lot of carryover copies of what we already got with the John Kreese figure. Comes included also with Johnny Lawrence. Now, again, like the Tonfas, you can take then the sai and just slip those into his hand, which actually, when you got the figure out of the packaging, he was already wielding his sai in hand. Again, we're just going to go ahead and just put it back to the way it was. You can have the figure displayed with that. The only downside to that, what I've already noticed here, is if you look at the inside of his hand, it looks as if they've actually painted the hands. So anytime you put in weapons, for example, you're going to start already to chip the paint that's on the inside of his palm. It may not bother you all that much anyways, because he's either going to be holding a weapon or you're probably not going to be looking down deep inside of his hand. But if you do, you probably will notice the fact that there's a little bit of paint that's starting to chip off on the inside of his palm. I just wanted to point that out to you. Go ahead and remove the sai for the single time being. We're going to move it over to the side. We're going to actually bring that back probably a little bit later into this review. And getting a closer look now at Eagle Fang Karate, Johnny Lawrence. You can already tell it's Eagle Fang by the fact he does have the cool looking logo there on the front of his t-shirt. I got to get me one of these t-shirts. Body-wise, body construction-wise, I'm going to bring in a couple of back of those Johnnies so you can see. It looks like the legs are going to be the same. The belt almost is the same, although the lower skirting of the shirt of the gi obviously comes a little bit lower down here on the comic version of Johnny. But it looks like they are sharing the same legs. And just to also show you the one that was slightly higher, here's the Johnny Lawrence, the San Diego Comic-Con version. So again, legs, feet, and everything in between seems like it's going to be the exact same figure. So where is there that separation that makes one a little bit higher than the other? It's not simply just the case that the neck is longer. You can see as well, like the shoulders are notably broader. And just for my own sake of amusement, let's actually bring in the other one. This is the Johnny Lawrence. Yeah, I mean, when looking at these, the gi definitely does make him a bigger, broader looking figure. He's slightly smaller, certainly when you are comparing him now to the Eagle Fang version of Johnny. I wonder why they made him a little bit smaller in size and build. Anyways, head sculpt wise, the one to the left right now is the SDCC. The one to the right is the one that we're looking at, obviously, in this review. He seems certainly more tanned, I would say, in the SDCC release. I think, though, comparing the figures better to be bringing in the comic version of Johnny Lawrence. And I gotta say, like, between the three figures, I think the one that has the most superior head sculpt is the one that comes from the comic book release, which is this one here. Not only are the features a little bit sharper, he seems actually a little bit more softer on features on the previews exclusive, or the Eagle Fang version of Johnny Lawrence. Definitely does seem like his face looks a little softer. Facial sculpt wise, and looking certainly the most like the actor, I feel like this one right here is the best of the three that we've gotten so far. But I guess you could technically as well, I haven't even tried it yet, you could probably remove the head. But if I am going to remove the head from this one, I'm still going to ultimately want to have a gi-dressed Johnny Lawrence. So I'm probably going to still stick to keeping this head on the body and keeping this head on the gi of this one, and then just having them on display like this. But it's, again, very, very strange, the fact that the bodies are off proportioned like that. Like, even where the tops of the shoulders are. Notably, the one from the previews version is even shorter on shoulders, too. Rest of the sculpting on the figure, short of the fact he does have the Eagle Fang logo on the front, he does only have the bite like an eagle in the back, which I think is a nice touch. He doesn't have the actual logo or anything like that. I don't even think in the series either. The t-shirts that they wear only really have the logo here on the front. And just to show you what that logo looks like again. Yeah, right? Wouldn't you want to get a t-shirt that looks like that? So again, you've got Eagle Fang here on the front, outlined in red. You've got the eagle with the fangs in its mouth. And then flip to the back, you got bite like an eagle. How does that make any sense at all? But that's so cool, the fact that they would have included that. Because, of course, he's using the bare arms, they would have just used the same arms that came included with both the Johnnies before, because they were already sleeveless already. And then the lower half, I'm guessing that they probably would have taken then, like, the belt. Now, again, like, it's too short on this side and a little bit longer on here. Belts are also a little bit different from one to the other. So it looks like in this case, they would have just reused the lower legs and retooled everything from like the waist up. And I wonder if they could maybe use this body again, this part right here, for a future figure release. For the articulation on previews exclusive Eagle Fang Johnny Lawrence, his head rotates all the way around on a ball joint. It does look up slightly. It does look down a lot more though. And you can also rock it back and forth slightly as well. Shoulders do come out, although they're really tight on this figure. Really, really tight. And in all the cases, I've noticed that you can only really get to about a 45-degree angle bend. 90 degrees would be right up here, and it's about half that. So if anybody knows anything about angles, I mean, that would be like a 45-degree angle, right? The arms rotate all the way around, all the way around. Here's a swivel at the bicep, the same as the Johnnies we looked at before. A double hinge on the elbow, also the same as before. Hands rotate also all the way around. This figure doesn't have any swappable hands, but it's not to say I'm sure you couldn't easily just pop these hands off and replace them with any one of the hands of the previous figures that we've looked at before. Like, for example, he's got like the pointing hand. He's got like the other Johnnies, of course, have had. Oh, actually, what am I talking about? This Johnny also came included with these hands as well. I had put these off to the side, just assuming I was going to look at them in this video, and sure enough, I just left them off at the part of the accessories. So yeah, he does also come included with the pointing hand. We've looked at that before. Figure comes included with the punching fist. We've looked at that before. And it even comes included with that sick, mean shot hand, where the bent-in fingers makes for the strongest hit. He also comes included with those as well. I don't know why I left those off in this part of the review. While we're certainly making the most use out of it, I'm going to go ahead and just wiggle the hand out and remove it from the socket. Can't even believe I left those off. You know what? Let's go ahead and use this hand after all. Just wiggle and put it back in the post. Now, I did notice, though, that they've painted the peg on the post Wow, I just said a whole lot of P's there. When you wiggle that in, you're going to flake the paint. And that's probably, you know what? That's probably the better hand to work with when it comes to this displaying of Johnny Lawrence. Can't again believe I forgot those hands. They were literally, I'm like looking at them right now. They were in a pile right next to where I put that adjustable post. Shame on me. Anyways, though, like his hands rotate back and forth, he has an upper torso ball joint. He has a lower torso waist swivel. Legs split out. You can bring the legs, of course, forward, bring them back about 3/4 of the way up the thigh. There's a swivel cut, so you can rotate the leg all the way around. A double hinge on the knee. And again, sort of the same problems that we've looked at earlier with the Karate Kid figures in general, is that they do have longer length legs. Like the end cuff of the leg, at least at the pants, go further beyond the point of the ankle. So that's going to give you a little stability issue when it comes to the figures standing. If, for example, you're having any problems getting Johnny Lawrence to stand, previews exclusive or otherwise, make definitely use of that display stand. It also gives you a chance to really display such a cool looking display stand anyways. And then just finally to bring back in those other Johnny Lawrences. I would imagine for right now, this is the last time we're going to be looking at Johnny Lawrences. Perhaps a moment of silence as we realize this is the last time we're going to be doing this, unless perhaps Diamond Select does go back and give us some earlier Karate Kid figures from, say, the first trilogy. I would certainly be down with that. But in the meantime, we do have ourselves 3 distinctly different, well, not so distinctly different. The ones bookend on either side are somewhat the same to one another. But again, strange the fact that the previews exclusive Johnny Lawrence, as we've already talked about ad nauseam, I'm sure, in this video, is shorter than both the 2 figures on either side. If you're not having them lined up with one another, and if you're not going back to back on the figures, I'm sure no one will be any bit the wiser. I noticed it in this video, and it comes to certainly when it comes to displaying the figures, I'm going to be putting them in different poses anyways that I'm not even going to notice that the one in the middle is the shortest of the batch. But again, it's so strange the fact that they would have used a different mold when it came to this figure. Again, they're probably using the same one they used for John Kreese. So John Kreese was the taller of the 2 figures after all. And that this one doesn't use that same body and therefore has to be a little bit shorter. A little bit strange, but still a great looking version, a great addition to my growing Karate Kid figures from the folks over at Diamond Select. I really like the way that Eagle Fang Johnny Lawrence came out. He's a little bit shorter, but he's a nice looking figure overall. Eagle Fang Johnny Lawrence is a nice looking figure from the folks over at Diamond Select. Now granted, this one is again a previews exclusive, and it may not be as easily available for you to try to track one down if you're hoping to add it to your current growing collection of Cobra Kai figures from Diamond Select Toys. I had to practice that a couple of times before I had to say it. Now, strange that this figure actually does have still a shorter frame than the other 2 Johnnies we've looked at before. I still don't know what the reasoning is and why they decided to bulk up the other 2 Johnnies. It still uses the same legs and it still uses the same arms, and yet the torso is the thing that does make those other 2 Johnnies quite a bit taller than this Johnny here. Doesn't really matter anyways for the way I'm going to be posing the figures. I'm going to be all posing them differently anyways. I'm not going to be having them all standing straight, and I'm certainly not going to have them back to back, shoulder to shoulder. I might even forget the fact that they're not even using the same bodies anyways. This one I did notice, though, the paint isn't as good or as sharp on features as the comic book version of Johnny Lawrence. So if you were to ask me right now, you don't have to twist my rubber arm, I'll tell you, probably if you were to choose a Johnny Lawrence and say you only had the available funds to try to track down one, I would say you'd probably be perfectly content to get the comic book release unless you're so desperate to grab yourself the Eagle Fang Johnny Lawrence like I have. Promise I'm not going to keep saying that. Promise I'm also going to try to track down a copy of that t-shirt. I'm sure by now, with the popularity of Cobra Kai being so good right now with Netflix, you got to imagine that some company right now is selling not only Cobra Kai shirts, but also selling Eagle Fang. If that's the case, I'm going to be picking up both and walking around town wearing my Eagle Fang shirt. I'm going to go over and look to somebody and just go, ah! They're going to think I'm a little bit crazy. Big thank you, though, to the folks over at Diamond Select that did come through once again and provide the sample of their previews exclusive, or PX, Eagle Fang Johnny Lawrence. I'm not going to do it again. Don't worry. If you did enjoy this video, hit it with a like. If you're loving the content that you're seeing here on a regular basis, not only just the Johnny Lawrence's ×3, but all the other things that we've looked at over the years, and you haven't yet had the chance to do so, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Yes, turning on the bell notification also does help you. It does also help us. It helps the community and the channel grow. It also allows you to get those reminders and notifications every single time a new video pops up. Because while we have wrapped up the review for Eagle Fang Johnny Lawrence, I'm so tempted to do it. I'm not going to do it. For the sake of all of your ears, I'm not going to do it. Even though we have wrapped up the review of Eagle Fang Johnny Lawrence, It's definitely going to be a lot more Diamond Select reviews coming your way. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.